It was a night of fury, April 1717. Off the coast of New England, near Cape Cod, the waves of the Atlantic Ocean roared as if the sky itself was shattering. The whipping wind tore at ship lines, and flashes of lightning briefly split the black clouds above the sea, as though the ocean were exposing its very soul. On this terrifying night, one massive ship fought against the onslaught of the waves. Her name was the Whydah galley. At one time, she was known in history as the fastest pirate vessel in the world, and her captain was Samuel Bellamy, whom everyone simply called Black Sam. His thick black hair was flying in the wind. The collar of his black coat was turned up, and his eyes held a strange, magnetic glint, deep as the sea and just as dangerous. He wasn't just a pirate. He was a dreamer, a rebel, a lover, and perhaps a bit of a poet. From love to pirate, King Samuel Bellamy was born into a poor family in Devonshire, England, around 1689. From childhood, he was drawn to the sea. His father was a sailor who died in an accident, and young Sam knew then that his future lay not on solid ground, but on the water. In 1715, at the age of just 26, Sam sailed to the American colony of Massachusetts. It was there that he met a young woman named Maria Hallett. Maria was the daughter of a local farmer. She had golden hair, a sweet smile, and a determination in her eyes that made her look like she could take on the world alone. Sam was instantly captivated, but their romance was forbidden by society. Sam was a poor sailor, and Maria was considered a proper lady of good standing. They met in secret, night after night. One day Sam told her, "I will return a wealthy man. Maria, I will return with a ship that is bigger than your entire village." Maria looked into his eyes and pleaded, "Whatever you do, don't lose yourself, Sam." But those very words would seal Sam's fate, because in his quest to become rich, he joined an expedition searching for sunken treasure. The quest for riches in 1716. A massive hurricane in the Caribbean Sea sank a Spanish fleet loaded with treasure. The news at the time spoke of thousands of gold coins, jewels, and silver, all resting beneath the waves. Sam joined a group of treasure hunters to retrieve the lost bounty. But early in the journey, he realized that wealth is never divided fairly. The rich kept the treasure for themselves, and the poor were left empty-handed. This injustice slowly turned Sam into a rebel. He was no longer just a sailor searching for treasure. He was Sam Bellamy the pirate. He was joined by a legendary companion, Palsgrave Williams, whom everyone called the Black Prince. Together, they formed a crew that considered themselves Democrats of the Sea. There was no king on their ship. Everyone was equal, and even the captain was elected by vote. Sam used to say, "We are fairer than any king. What we plunder, we share equally. That is our liberty." This philosophy is what set him apart in history. He wasn't just a king of plunder, but an idealistic pirate. The Whydah, a haunting beauty in 1717. Sam and his crew captured a huge slaving ship, the Whydah galley. This vessel had previously transported enslaved people from Africa to Europe. Sam freed the enslaved people, granted them their liberty, and transformed the ship into the flagship of his pirate empire. The Whydah was then the most feared ship on the seas, boasting gilded ornaments, 28 cannons, and a crew of 180. Yet Sam was a figure of respect, not fear to his crew. He never attacked innocent vessels, only those of the wealthy, especially English and Spanish merchants. He did not murder his captives, but instead would proclaim, "If kings can exploit the people, why can't we exploit the kings?" Once, a captured English captain told him, "You are nothing but a pirate." Sam famously replied, "You are the pirate in my eyes because you steal with the law, and I steal openly." This quote is still cited today as the core of Sam Bellamy's pirate philosophy. Returning for love, Sam was then the wealthiest pirate in the world. He held nearly 10 tons of gold and silver, worth approximately $20 million in modern value. He wanted only one thing, to return to Massachusetts with all this wealth and marry Maria Hallett. The Whydah, fully loaded with treasure, accompanied by 2 smaller vessels, began its voyage north, sailing toward Cape Cod. But fate seemed to take its revenge exactly then. On April 26, 1717, as they neared the coast, the terrifying nor'easter storm struck. In that hurricane night, the Whydah was torn apart, sunk deep beneath the sand, buried beneath the waves and lost to history. Only 2 of the 180 crew members survived. Samuel Bellamy was not among them. Maria Hallett's last vigil. Maria was pregnant at the time. She would go to the village cliffs every day, gazing out at the sea, hoping to see Sam's ship appear on the horizon. But the ship never came. A few weeks later, news arrived. The Whydah had sunk. Maria was left alone and her child died during birth. The villagers accused her of being a witch, claiming that during the storm a fire had been seen in her eyes. One day she quietly left the village and was never seen again. Folklore says that on stormy nights on the Cape Cod coast, a woman in a black dress can still be seen crying as she stares at the sea. Sam, won't you return? The Whydah's resurrection, 250 years later in 1984, an American historian and diver, Barry Clifford, discovered a strange structure beneath the sea near Cape Cod. From it, they retrieved the Whydah's ship's bell, where the words were clearly engraved, "The Whydah Galley, 1716. This proved that the legend of Black Sam was true. Over the next 3 decades, they recovered thousands of gold coins, cannons, jewelry, and even Sam's personal pistol. Today, the Whydah Pirate Museum stands in Provincetown, Massachusetts. The bell and the recovered treasures are still displayed there, and beneath a painting of the captain, the inscription reads, "Samuel Bellamy, the pirate king who rebelled for love." Legend of the sea history records that Black Sam Bellamy, in his mere 1 year as a pirate, captured more than 50 ships, yet he never started a battle and never executed a prisoner. He is called the Prince of Pirates, and many refer to him as the Robin Hood of the sea. His crew was one of the first truly democratic organizations, featuring voting, rights, equal shares, and equal status for black and white members alike, which was unimaginable in Europe at the time. And what's most astonishing, historians suggest that the seeds of the idea of liberty that were later expressed by Black Sam's pirate comrades, who then joined the American Revolutionary War, first came from this rebellious king of the sea. In the roar of the ocean, a faint voice is still said to be heard off the coast of Cape Cod. "I have returned, Maria. I have returned in the waves." When the ocean waves turn to white foam in the bluish light of a storm, local fishermen say, "That's Black Sam's ship, the Whydah, returned again in the glow of gold." The birth of pirate democracy. Continuation. It was a warm afternoon in 1716, cutting through the blue waters of the Caribbean Sea on a small ship, the Sultana. On the deck, Sam Bellamy stood watching the distant horizon, his eyes holding a flame that no king or law could extinguish. Standing beside him was a black pirate named Coles. He was a freed slave, originally brought from the African coast, whom Sam had liberated. He was now Sam's most trusted comrade. Sam said, "You know, Coles, this ocean is the only place where we are all truly equal." Coles smiled. "But the kings will never accept that, Captain," Sam replied. "When kings make laws for their own security, then we will create our own laws, the laws of the sea." Here is the continuation of your story converted to English, flowing directly from the previous section on the birth of pirate democracy. The pirates' constitution, whenever Sam Bellamy and his comrades boarded a new pirate vessel, they would gather for a collective discussion. Who would be the captain, how the loot would be divided, and what the punishments and rights would be. Their constitution, which later entered history as the Pirate Code, was established as follows. No murder of captives, unless they initiate an attack. The bravest among them would receive a larger share. All plunder would be divided equally. The captain would receive 1.5 shares, and the rest would receive 1 full share. Anyone who shirks their duty or abandons a shipmate will be punished by death. All decisions would be made by vote. Even the removal of the captain was possible, Sam would declare. Kings rule people through fear. We rule through trust. This idea gave birth to a new concept even before the American independence movement, that liberty means equality, and equality means courage. The revolution of the sea, Sam was no longer just a pirate. He was a legend. They systematically captured large English and Spanish merchant vessels. But the astonishing thing was that there was no bloodshed and no terror. One day, an English ship, the Mary Ann, appeared before them. Sam looked through his spyglass and saw that the vessel was loaded with gold and silver. He turned to his crew and said, "Remember, we are pirates, not murderers. We intimidate. We do not execute. Upon reaching the ship, they forced the English crew to surrender without firing a single cannon. Sam personally provided the prisoners with food and then released them, but kept the ship's treasure. One captive, weeping, said, "You are kinder than the kings." Sam laughed and replied, "No, I am only human." 4. The flag of blood and the song of liberty. One day, Sam raised a new flag over his ship. Against a black background, it bore a red heart pierced by a dagger. He named the flag the Heart of Freedom. He announced, "This flag does not signify terror, it signifies love, betrayal, and the blood spilled for liberty." At night, the shadow of the ship danced over the ocean waves, and the crew sang a chant. Yo-ho, yo-ho, the freedom's call, no king shall rise, no man shall fall. This song later spread through the American colonies and became known as the Pirates' Anthem, the Wrath of the English. Navy Sam's rapid success terrified the British government. In January 1717, King George VI of England declared, "A reward of £500 will be given for any pirate captured, dead or alive." Immediately, a powerful commander from the English Navy, Captain Vincent Pierce, was dispatched. His ship, the HMS Phoenix, began scouring the sea in search of Black Sam. Sam received the news. He smiled. "The kings are beginning to fear Coales. This means we are succeeding." The division of Gold Sam's crew now numbered 200, composed of people of various nationalities, races and religions, African, English, Irish, and Native American. But all were equals. Every week they would open a large wooden chest on the ship's deck. Inside were gold coins, silver bars, and jewels. Coales remarked, "When I was a slave, I was sold for a handful of silver. Now I'm sharing that same silver equally." Sam replied, "This ocean is the true liberty, brother. Here, no one owns anyone else." The vows of the terrible night. One night, Sam's ship sailed to a small island near the Bahamas. There they met another pirate captain, Benjamin Hornigold, who had once been a mentor to Sam. Hornigold said, "Sam, the king is offering a pardon to any pirate who surrenders. Think about it. If you quit now, your life will be spared." Sam laughed and replied, "I do not fear the king because I am not a king. I am a free man." Then he looked at his crew and said, "If you wish, you may leave, but I will stay here with the waves." No one left. That same night they made a new vow. As long as the sea exists, so shall the flag of Black Sam. This is the powerful climax of your story. Here's the English conversion continuing the narrative smoothly. The richest pirate in history. In March 1717, Sam captured a massive French merchant vessel, the Marianne, laden with gold, jewels, spices, and silver. Valued at the time, it was estimated to be 10 tons of gold's worth. According to historians, Sam Bellamy was one of the wealthiest men in the world at that time. Yet he had no kingdom, no palace. His kingdom was the sea, his palace was the Whydah, and his citizens were 200 rebellious hearts. A memory of love and the dream of return. Standing on the deck at night, Sam often gazed at the stars. To him, every wave of the sea sounded like Maria's laughter. Coales once asked him, "Now that you have so much gold, so much power, why do you still want to return?" Sam answered softly, "Because wealth means nothing if I cannot see it reflected in her eyes." He did not know the storm awaited him, but his eyes were still filled only with the light of love. The birth of a legend under Sam's leadership. The Whydah became an invincible ship. The English and Spanish navies tried repeatedly to capture him, but each time they failed. He was not just a pirate, but a legend. Port children sang a chant, "Beware the man with golden heart, he sails at night, he steals the stars." Sam's name spread from the American coast to the ports of Africa. But like every legend, this light too had an ending. Because every time people have demanded liberty throughout history, kings have always been afraid, and fear breeds revenge. The shadow of the final storm, the Whydah, was then headed for Massachusetts. Sam declared, "I will see Maria's face one last time, and then whatever comes will come." But dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. The sea was not calm. Birds could not fly, and the air carried a strange, acrid, salty scent. Coales whispered, "Captain, the sea is not peaceful today." Sam looked up at the sky and said, "No, Coales, the sea is speaking today." the final hours. Battle with the waves. It was April 1717. The Whydah was glittering with gold, silver, and jewels. The famous flag, the black banner with the blood-red heart, snapped in the wind. Sam Bellamy stood at the ship's prow, a strange sense of peace in his eyes. In the distance, the coastline of America, Massachusetts, was visible. 3 years of hardship, fighting, and risk, and at last he was returning to his beloved Maria Hallett. He said, "Just one more night, Coles. When the sun rises tomorrow, I will look into Maria's eyes." Koalas smiled grimly and said, "If the sea permits, Captain." Sam laughed and replied, "The sea is a witness to my love. It will not stand in our way, but the sea too knows jealousy." The black clouds approached as the afternoon wore on. A heavy humidity settled into the air. The sky turned a leaden gray. Lightning flashed far off and the waves' roar grew louder. The Whydah's veteran sailors recognized it. A nor'easter. The terrifying northern storm that could devastate towns once it struck the New England coast. One crewman warned Sam, "Captain, the storm is directly in our path." Sam, calm, said, "If we turn back now, we won't reach the coast in time. We will not drop anchor. We will sail through it." Coles looked at him. "Captain, fighting a storm like this is an invitation to death." Sam answered, "I have already made my peace with death, Coles. My name is already written in history." In the first blow of the storm as night fell, the sea became a mad thing. Winds exceeded 80 miles per hour. For a second in the lightning's flash, the Whydah was visible riding the crest of a wave, only to plunge into the deep trough the next moment. The crew shouted, pulling ropes and throwing the cannons overboard to lighten the ship. Sam stood firm, gripping the wheel, his eyes holding that strange determination. A crewman screamed, "Captain, the mast is breaking." Sam roared back, "Cut it with knives. Save yourselves." Lightning struck, and in an instant the foremast snapped, crashing into the sea. Then a massive wave crashed onto the deck. Gold chests, cannons, and men were swept into the churning water. The last stand Coles rushed to Sam's side and shouted, "Water is pouring into the lower deck. The ship won't hold." Sam looked at the clock. Midnight. "To stop now is to surrender, Coles. We must outrun the waves." Then he pulled off his hat and tossed it into the wind. "If we must die, let us not die like kings. Let us die as free men." The crew began to sing, the sound cutting through the roar of the storm. Yo ho, the sea is free. Our blood shall write the memory." Sam's eyes caught a distant light. The coast. "Cape Cod, Massachusetts," he yelled. "Maria, I am returning to you." But just then, the sky shuddered with a clap of thunder, and one final, immense wave engulfed the Whydah. The Whydah's death, according to historical records, the Whydah sank at approximately 2 a.m. on April 26, 1717. The ship was instantly swallowed, less than a mile from the shore, near the Wellfleet area of Cape Cod. Only 2 of the 180 men survived. The rest drowned, along with the gold, the silver, the cannons, and a legend of history. When coastal residents discovered floating timbers, clothing, and gold coins the next morning, they understood the pirate king had lost his kingdom. One of the survivors later testified, "Captain Bellamy held the wheel until the very end. There was no fear in his eyes, only resolve, as if he knew he was not dying but becoming immortal." This section provides a beautiful, emotional conclusion to your epic story. Here is the English conversion, starting with Maria's fate and ending with the rediscovery and legacy of Black Sam. The coastal dawn that morning, the air on Cape Cod smelled of smoke and salt. Maria Hallett stood on the hill staring at the sea. An unknown coldness had settled in her heart. She had dreamt the night before that Sam was calling her, "Maria, I am coming," but from across the waves. When news spread that a pirate ship had sunk, her body trembled. No one told her, but she knew he will never return. Maria slowly faded into solitude. Her child died during birth. The villagers whispered, "There is an evil fire in her eyes." Eventually, she vanished without a trace. Folklore claims that even today, on stormy nights on the Cape Cod coast, a woman in black is seen, staring at the sea, crying, "Sam, I am still waiting." 7. The grave beneath the gold. Decades passed. The Whydah and its treasure disappeared beneath the sand and the water. People said that on stormy nights, the Whydah's bell still tolls under the sea. Tong, tong. The sound is said to shake the coast, a reminder of a pirate's voice. We are not the sons of kings, but the sons of the waves. 8. Rebirth 3 centuries later in 1984. The American archaeologist Barry Clifford found pieces of iron beneath the sea near Cape Cod. He dove down and saw massive cannons, ship timber, and finally a bell inscribed with the Whydah Galley 1716. In that moment, history spoke from the depths. The discovery stunned the world. It proved that Black Sam was not merely a legend, but a real person. Over the following years, thousands of artifacts were recovered: gold coins, jewelry, weapons, and even several human skeletons. Next to one skeleton, they found a black pistol and a gold ring. Experts suggested this is likely the skeleton of Sam Bellamy. Rewriting history today, the Whydah Pirate Museum stands in Provincetown, Massachusetts. The bell, the cannons, and a plaque engraved with Sam's name hang there. The inscription reads, Samuel Bellamy, 1689 to 1717. Pirate king, who freed slaves, challenged kings, and died for love. Historians now call Sam Bellamy the most righteous pirate of his time. He was the Robin Hood of the sea, and his ideals, equality, the right to vote, and distrust of kings, spread through the American colonies, where people would later declare, no king, only freedom. That is to say, not a king, but liberty is our goal. 10. The Echo. Across the waves, the night sea still roars near Cape Cod. When a storm comes, the old song is carried on the wind. Yo-ho, yo-ho, the sea is free. The heart of man shall never flee. People say that sometimes on the crest of a wave, the shadow of a man in a black coat is seen. A sword in his hand, a slight smile on his face. Lightning flashes in his eyes and he whispers, I have returned, Maria, with the waves. Beside him is another shadow, a woman in white, her hair flying in the wind. They walk together on the ocean surface as if time has stopped. The sea calms, and history knows this. Black Sam Bellamy never truly died. He remains in the waves, the eternal symbol of love, liberty, and rebellion. Additional section. The great discovery. One morning in 1984, a team of divers was working beneath the sea off the coast of Cape Cod. They were led by archaeologist Barry Clifford. They carried modern metal detectors, radar, and old maps, but in their hearts they carried only one dream: to find the Whydah Galley. Barry Clifford had heard the story of Black Sam since childhood. He was told that a ship slept beneath the sea, a symbol of dreams, rebellion, and love. Everyone had said, it's just a legend, but Barry believed that the truth is hidden within the legend. The divers worked beneath the sea for weeks without success. Then one day a diver saw a strange shape on the radar, something like a circular metal object. He brushed the sand away with his hand and found a bronze bell inscribed with the Whydah Galley 1716. History spoke from the bottom of the sea. This concluding part brilliantly ties Black Sam's story to American and historical concepts of liberty and equality. Here is the final English conversion, completing your entire epic narrative. The voice of history. The moment the bell was recovered, Barry Clifford stood in silence. It felt to him as if through the roar of the ocean 300 years ago someone was whispering, I am here. I am still breathing, Clifford later said. In that moment I felt that history is not just a book, it is an echo of blood, love, and courage. This discovery opened a new chapter in American history. For the first time, a verified pirate ship was found beneath the sea, the Whydah Galley. Over the following years, they recovered thousands of objects: gold coins, Spanish pieces of 8, silver bars, cannonballs, navigation compasses, dried rum in glass bottles, and several human skeletons. Most significantly, they found a black metallic pistol and a gold ring, inscribed with S.B. Samuel Bellamy. Were the pirates heroes? Following this discovery, American historians began to reconsider a new question. Were the people we know as pirates truly just thieves? Or were they rebels who built an alternative society against the rule of kings? Analysis of the documents found on the Whydah's deck revealed that Sam's crew included people from over 30 nationalities and faiths: English, Irish, African, French, and even some Native Americans. and every single person received an equal share and an equal vote. Sam used to say, "We live for ourselves, not for kings." This concept was entirely new to America in the early 18th century, a time when slavery, racial discrimination, monarchy, and colonialism were commonplace. In essence, Black Sam Bellamy was among the first Americans to articulate the dream of equality. The idea of a pirate republic. A few years before Sam Bellamy's death, a group of pirates in the Bahamas on the island of New Providence established a short-lived state, the Pirate Republic of Nassau. Their core principle was, no king, no master, only the sea. Sam's philosophy was the same. They rejected the laws of kings and created their own, where every person was equal. The English journalist Daniel Defoe, who wrote Robinson Crusoe, later writing under the pseudonym Captain Charles Johnson, wrote that these pirates created a society more equal than any kingdom in Europe. The historian Marcus Rediker later wrote, Sam Bellamy and his crew were the revolution of the sea workers. They rebelled against exploitation. Sam's legacy and the idea of American liberty, half a century after Sam's death, when the American colonies rebelled against England in 1776, the main slogan of the rebellion was, "No taxation without representation." That is, we will not abide by a law that we had no vote in. Is this idea so different from Sam Bellamy's? No, it is nearly identical. Sam, too, had said, "Kings levy taxes, create laws, but they do not ask our permission. Therefore, we will make our own laws." This sentiment later spread among sailors, merchants, and colonists. They began to say, "We too want freedom like the pirates, our own rule, not the rule of kings." The modern symbol, pirate as rebel. In modern America, the image of the pirate is not just a costume for children on Halloween. It is a symbol of freedom, rebellion, and individualism.